Hello and welcome to Eco at Africa, this time from Kenya. We're here in the city of Nairobi. I'm Edith Kimani and I have the pleasure of having my counterpart, Neota Egbe, right here with me.
Yes, indeed, Edith, and it's good to be here. Today we'll be bringing you the latest environmental stories from Africa and Europe. And this is what we have lined up on the show.
We'll show you a German gardener who's trying to protect rare species with his private property.
We think you'll be surprised to hear that in Kenya, elephant dung can be recycled into paper.
And last but not least, we'll show you efforts in Tanzania to protect lions and livelihoods at the same time. Well, Neota, you know that in Nairobi we're 4 million residents.
Yeah.
I know it's not anything compared to Lagos, but we require a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But first, we take you back to Nigeria. And last week, Neota, you actually met a young man who has a taste of two worlds in terms of energy usage.
Yes, indeed. Imagine a population of about 20 million in Lagos. That requires a lot of energy for homes. But this young man we met last week used to spend about 3,500 naira a month to acquire electricity. Now he spends just about 2,000 naira simply because he made a choice of switching from incandescent bulbs to energy efficient bulbs. And guess what? That also leaves a lot more energy for the distributors to share to everyone in the population.
This is the home of Olakunle Afolabi,
right.
a resident in Lagos city center. He replaced all traditional light bulbs with energy-saving light bulbs.
So how does it work for you?
Very fantastic. In fact, it even makes it gives a house a kind of beautification other than the other one that is yellowish. This one is white and it's like they're in paradise.
Afolabi works as a financial consultant and he is also a smart spender at home. Besides switching to cost-efficient energy-saving light bulbs, he also installed a prepaid energy system. Now, he has full control over the costs.
While I was using the other kind of bulb before, I think my monthly bill on electricity is something like around 3,500 thereabout, but now I get to pay in between, depending on how available I am in the house, as in, because I do travel from work from time to time. I do pay from 2,250 if I'm around 2,500. If I'm not around 2,000.
Many Nigerians don't have electricity, and when they do, it is costly. Energy-saving light bulbs could help to cut these costs, and they are beneficial for the environment as they consume up to 80% less energy and last much longer. Electricity providers like Ikeja Electricity PLC have their own preference. A more efficient use of energy would reduce the risk of outages.
There's an immediate impact on the cost to the customer. And what is happening now in Nigeria, everybody is cost conscious. So I believe that this is even a good opportunity for us to also create more awareness of the cost savings the use of energy bulbs would have to the average Nigerian.
In order to raise awareness, the company has started a campaign on social media and radio. So far, only a small percentage of Nigerians use energy-efficient light bulbs, but due to the lack of electricity, the need for conserving energy cannot be overemphasized.
Okay, so what? Guess what, Edith?
What?
I just had to go get this bulb to ask you. Energy saving? No, incandescent energy saving.
You can see where my hand is already. I use this at home, so I'm going to nick this from you.
Go ahead, knock yourself out.
Yeah, but first, we're going to take you to something completely different. Wide-scale industrial farming is threatening insect life in Germany. And our eco-hero this week is doing his bit to save bugs, I know, but with a different sanctuary where the wildlife is left to flourish. Now, his insect garden is a wonderful reminder of what a healthy ecosystem really looks like.
Entering this garden means negotiating your way through a veritable jungle of shrubs and bushes. But there is a method in the maze. Marcus Gastel makes sure that the chemicals being used on nearby fields do not pollute his prized garden. He's determined to protect the plants and the insects on his 2.5 acres of land.
My garden has 3 zones. The buffer zone protects me from outside elements. Next comes the hotspot zone, which is where most of the insects and flowers are. Here in Germany, that range of species can only grow on poor soil, which is absurd. And the third zone in the center is where I grow vegetables on quality soil.
Gastel had 35 truckloads of nutrient-rich soil removed in order to ensure the land was conducive to flowering plants. These are species that have already vanished in most other places in Germany due to over-fertilizing.
Having a nice and colorful meadow of flowers also means having insects. I'm going to let this little grasshopper go now. Here he goes. That's what I love about it. We have insects and so much diversity here.
That diversity is now seen all too rarely in Germany. In some regions, up to 80% of winged insects have been lost. Nature is under threat, especially in the countryside. Monoculture and the use of herbicides in industrial farming have decimated the insect population. The fate of the world's food supply is determined by the pollination of plants by insects. If they were to disappear, the consequences would be disastrous.
We'll lose the foundations of the food pyramid, the diverse range of plants plus the insects. As a consequence, everything above that, predators, alpha predators, and at the top, humans, are going to face massive problems. We arrogantly assume we're untouchable, but we're part of the overall system and dependent on it.
Chemicals are not welcome in Marcus Gastel's vegetable garden. And they're not necessary either. His cabbages and other vegetables are neighbours with flowers that attract insects. The result is a healthy balance for nature.
The diversity I conserve in the buffer and hotspot zones helps me to combat pests, which is necessary because I want to grow healthy vegetables. Pumpkins, zucchinis, all grown organically without the use of chemicals and artificial fertilizers.
Scientists estimate that the potential loss of pollinators will lead to crop failures worth at least 200 billion euros per year. 80% of all crops and wild plants in Europe are directly dependent on pollination by insects. Many fruits would gradually disappear without the insects, a scenario Marcus Gastel wants to prevent.
Really, a very beautiful garden. Wouldn't you agree, Nyota?
I agree with you.
Yeah, and especially with flora and fauna that we don't really see here in Africa.
It's a project that is tended with love and dedication. Yes, but just like Next Initiative we're providing, an organization that's active in a number of countries in West Africa, they promote the use of natural resources in the construction sector.
Can mud homes help save trees? Yes, they can, especially here in Africa's Sahel region. A swelling population has led to a huge increase in deforestation. Roofs are made of imported corrugated iron and wood. That's expensive and doesn't provide insulation. French mason Thomas Granier and Seri Yulu, a farmer from Burkina Faso, rediscovered an ancient construction technique, the Nubian vault. Forests are protected as builders only use bricks and mortar, locally made from earth and water. It's a cost-effective, sustainable way of building, and it creates a market for local masons. The houses are cool in hot weather and warm on the coldest of nights. More than 2,000 such houses have been built so far in Burkina Faso, Mali, Senegal, and neighboring countries.
Do you like that? If you are also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Hey Neota, did you know that this is a site where Kenya's president recently burned 15 tons of ivory to discourage poaching?
You're serious? I guess those are the remains. But the question I'll ask is the elephant just known for ivory?
You'll be surprised. You know their dung can actually be converted into paper?
No.
And here's another interesting fact. They eat up to 250 kilos of food a day. Now that's a lot.
Don't go there.
Oh, come on, Neota. That's a lot of paper.
Okay.
Paper.
Mighty Kenyan elephants. Many Kenyan farmers fear them as the animals destroy their crops. Often, there's not enough space for animals and humans. The Mwaluganje sanctuary in the east of the country has found a unique way to create an income using elephants and at the same time preserve their habitat.
The area was habited by human beings. People were living here, the local communities. But because of the conflict between human and elephants, the KWS and the other organizations came up with the idea of starting this sanctuary so that we can leave this corridor for elephants and other animals.
The Mwaluganje Elephant Sanctuary is community owned. One way of them earning money is through tourism. Surrounding farmers receive a share of the revenue to make up for any crops that are destroyed by elephants. Another way of earning money with elephants is turning their dung into paper.
Raw material we use to make the paper is an elephant dung and waste papers. So first we go around the bush, we collect the dung, which has been stayed for 4 to 5 days. After that, to boil well for 2 hours. Reasons for boiling is to kill germs and also to make it soft when pounding.
An average elephant eats up to 250 kilograms of food, which makes enough raw material for up to 125 sheets of paper. The dung is full of plant fiber that has been broken down by the elephant's digestive system. After it's been collected, the dung is boiled for several hours and dried. The resulting material is mixed with conventional paper pulp.
After that, we add some water in a big basin, let's say 40 to 30 liters, and we add woody glue. It is adhesive, so it is used to bind the particles together. After that, we get a sponge, and the sponge away the excess water. Reason to enhance the quick drying of the paper and easy removal of the frame. Finally, we lift the frame very carefully and we remain with the paper on the board to dry.
The end product is paper that is completely natural, odorless and free of bacteria. The paper can be used to make notebooks, photo albums and journals, which are sold at the pot gift shop. The price is similar to standard paper, but with the added benefits of conserving the environment.
Wow, Auntie, can you feel that heat?
Yeah,
It's getting
I
hot.
can. It's the temperatures are just crazy. But that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are leaving the high Atlas Mountains in Morocco because of climate change. Most of the young people there have started moving away long ago. But the older generation leaving there is now living from agriculture and fishing.
And you know what? That's certainly not easy. The barren soil doesn't yield much food anymore. So there's a Moroccan project which wants to make the region attractive again. But as they've come to realize, Neota, it's really not that simple a task.
No, it's not.
Over 100,000 people live in the region around Lake Bin El Ouidan, a reservoir in the Atlas Mountains. Life here is hard. Most of the local residents are farmers. Because of climate change, making a living from the soil is growing harder by the year. That's why Idris Bakour decided to leave his farm and become a fisherman like his father before him.
I wouldn't want my son to become a farmer like I did. It's too hard. At least fishing provides us with more of an income than we used to have.
Bakour is the spokesman for a local fishing cooperative. It's joined forces with the Moroccan Forestry Authority to launch a campaign to persuade people not to move away. The initiative is supported by the German aid agency GIZ. Members of the initiative meet up regularly to discuss issues such as fish stocks and fishing quotas.
We started out by completely reorganizing the fishing industry because it wasn't regulated at all. People would just go out in their fishing boats. But now we founded a collective. The organization has a hand in combating poaching. It sets out rules for when people can go fishing and takes spawning season into account. When it's spawning season for the black bass, for example, the fishermen aren't allowed to catch them.
The reservoir was built in the mid-1950s. Its waters used to be teeming with fish, but heavy rainfall and flooding in the last years have washed away the soil. Rivers have narrowed and fish stocks have fallen dramatically. The nearby fishery went bust and fell into wrack and ruin. The Fishing Collective project includes a breeding station down in the valley. Trout and carp are bred here on the edge of town. When the young fish reach the right size, they're taken to the reservoir. That's what Idris Bakour is going to do today. He'll be releasing about 100 fish into the lake. The point is to boost the diversity of fish in its waters.
I'm so glad that we have a fish breeding station here. It's a great help because fish stocks in the lake are on the decline.
The fishing project based at the reservoir is also looking to boost tourism. At the moment, only about 100 visitors travel to this mountainous region each year. But if fish stocks recover here, many more might come. The project is seeing some signs of success. Last year, 335 tons of fish were caught in the lake, twice as much as the year before. The fishing sector now provides hundreds of jobs. And the financial returns have also been substantial. 400 families have doubled their income, giving them a good economic reason to remain in this remote region of the Atlas Mountains.
Now, you know, East Africa is home to a lot of national parks whose lion population actually poses a threat to farmers, livestock and crops.
Yeah, and that's where the Panthera organization comes in. Its goal is to convince the Maasai herdsmen that even though lions are attacking their animals with increasing frequency, they still need to be protected.
That's absolutely right. And you know, in neighboring Tanzania, there's this organization which is actively involving the local community in lion protection schemes.
The majestic lion is facing hard times. Its habitats are shrinking, and the global population in the wild is at its lowest ever. Over the last decades, it's dropped to about 20,000. That's a decline of almost 90%. Lions have already become extinct in 15 countries. Conservationists are worried. If it's not even possible to save the mighty lion, then what about other animals? Ingela Janssen from the Ngorongoro Lion Project and Philip Henschel from the conservation organization Panthera have decided to take action. The two zoologists want to explore what strategies can help preserve the lion population. The Ngorongoro Conservation Area in Tanzania represents an ideal habitat for lions. Here, they find plenty of food. But despite these ideal circumstances, the lions are producing very few offspring.
After this became known, genetic studies were conducted. And they found that there's no other lion population in Africa that's so genetically impoverished as this one down here in the crater.
The lions essentially live in an isolated habitat. There's no exchange with other lion populations. This leads to inbreeding, which diminishes the lion's fertility and makes them more susceptible to diseases. The reason for this is that there's less and less space for humans and animals on the continent. Africa's population is growing and requires more and more land to produce food. This, however, makes it harder for lions to travel from one area to another. Crops border directly on the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, and thus on the lion's habitat. Today, many habitats are entirely isolated and surrounded by crops or cities.
The situation here is typical for many parts of Africa. Lions and other wildcats simply cannot exist amongst crops like these.
Lions once lived in a region stretching from Southeast Europe to India, and in almost all of Africa. But the destruction of their habitats and uncontrolled hunting caused the populations to collapse. 70 years ago, there were still around 200,000 lions in Africa. Today, the last big populations can be found in the south and east of the continent. Additional regional factors have further decimated the population, like diseases and excessive hunting of game. This means lions struggle to find food in certain regions. Large herds of cattle, sheep, and goats pose another problem. Their excessive grazing destroys the land. This reduces the availability of food for the lion's natural prey, for example, zebras and antelopes. They can't compete with the large herds and move on.
What we can see here is an extreme case. There are far too many cattle here, so there's almost no natural vegetation left. Wild-hoofed animals in this area are struggling to survive, and the few lions that still live here are forced to prey on the cattle.
Which happens often. A cow was attacked by a lion on the outskirts of this Maasai village. It survived because a shepherd was able to drive the lion away. Cattle is valuable, so shepherds are protective of their stock.
Maybe if the problem occurs, we can react in a direct response. That we should kill this animal that is responsible for killing our animals.
One of Ingela's colleagues treated the cow's wound and was able to save the animal. Free treatments like these are intended to increase the villagers' tolerance of lions. The conservationists are convinced that without support from the locals, the lion population cannot be protected. That's why Ingela cooperates closely with the Maasai. Men like Roymain Leila are tasked with ensuring the lions are not killed. He's part of a team of 18 Maasai working with Ingela to protect the animals. The Maasai men used to earn a living from selling cattle and taking odd jobs. Today, they're paid a regular wage to protect lions.
My life has really changed. With the money I earn now, I can feed my family. I now have a driver's license and know a lot about GPS technology and ways of monitoring the lion population.
The lions require not just protection from the locals. They also need safe corridors between habitats, allowing them to travel between different areas. But what about the remaining lion populations across Africa? Will they suffer a similar fate to the Ngorongoro lions, which are well protected, but also suffer from severe inbreeding?
I think the trend has been for a long time now that the land is getting fragmented, and protected areas are becoming more and more isolated from other protected areas. I think this one is like a textbook example of what's happening in many, many areas, not only in Africa, but across the world.
The mighty lions continue to face tough times, but they'll never manage on their own.
And that's a wrap for today's Echo Africa show. Yes,
already?
Indeed. It's been a blast doing it here in Nairobi, Kenya. Yes, it is.
Yes, indeed, Nyota. And we conclude right here where we began, in this beautiful park in the heart of Nairobi. And next week, we can have more exciting stories on environmental topics for you. So thank you for being with us. And please join us again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Do you want to take a walk?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, let's do it.